All right, pizza fans, welcome to another deep dive. This time it's all about pizza.
Yeah.
One of the things I love most about pizza
Mm-hmm.
is like the variety. Like you
Oh,
can
yeah, absolutely.
so many different kinds,
Endless possibility.
endless, and we're going to try to tackle that today.
We are.
We're gonna focus on the three uh, major types of pizza that are out there, at least according to our sources.
Right.
Um, and those are going to be brick oven pizzas,
Okay.
pan pizzas, and fire pizzas.
Sounds good to me.
So I think
Yeah, let's dive in.
the best place to start
Yeah.
is with brick oven pizzas.
Yeah. Classic.
When you picture a pizzeria in your head, I think most people picture a brick oven,
Right.
right?
Absolute.
And I think one of the things that's so fascinating about it is the high heat.
Yeah.
I read that some of these brick ovens get up to like 900 degrees.
It's incredible the intensity of the heat in those ovens, and it really is the key to creating that beautiful crispy crust.
Yeah.
You get that nice char, you get the chewiness, and it all happens so quickly.
Yeah, it cooks in like minutes, right?
Just a couple of minutes. Yeah. It's amazing.
It's like magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
Really is.
And I also feel like, and I'm sure you can speak to this,
Sure.
but like I always feel like brick oven pizzas have that smoky flavor.
Absolutely.
What is it that makes it so smoky?
So there are a couple of things that contribute to that smoky flavor that you get with a brick oven pizza.
Yep.
First of all, the wood itself
Oh, right.
that's used to fire the oven imparts a smoky aroma into the crust and the toppings.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's also this thing called the Maillard reaction.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. No.
So basically, it's a chemical reaction that occurs
Oh,
between amino acids and sugars on the surface of the dough when it's exposed to high heat.
And this reaction creates hundreds of flavor compounds, many of which contribute to that characteristic smoky, slightly sweet taste that you associate with brick oven pizza.
So there's literally chemistry happening in that oven.
Literally chemistry. It's amazing.
That's just so cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
And let's talk about pan pizzas.
Oh, right.
So pan pizzas, they're thick, they're cheesy,
Yeah.
they're very satisfying.
You're hearty.
Yeah, you're not messing around with a pan pizza.
No, you're not.
So how is a pan pizza different from, what's the process different?
Well, the pan pizza, you're using a deep, well-seasoned oiled pan.
Okay.
And that creates that crispy golden brown crust that you get with the pan pizza. It's crispy on the outside, but it's still soft and pillowy on the inside.
Yeah.
Think about Detroit-style pizza with that cheese caramelized to the edges, or Chicago deep dish,
Yes.
known for its generous toppings and rich flavors.
Yeah, you mentioned Detroit style. Why is it that Detroit style takes the cheese all the way to the edge of the crust?
That's a good question, and it actually has a really interesting history behind it.
Okay.
So back in the day, Detroit pizzerias would use these steel pans
Well, okay.
that were originally intended for industrial parts.
Really?
Yeah, and to prevent the pizza from sticking, they would take the cheese all the way to the edges of the pan.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that created this unique caramelized crust that's now become a signature of the Detroit style.
Oh, so it was born out of practicality.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Another thing I've always wondered about pan pizzas is why does the sauce go on top of the cheese?
Oh, good point. Yeah. So while Detroit-style pizza popularized this approach, you'll actually find sauce on top in various pan pizza styles.
Okay.
And there are a couple of reasons for this one. It helps keep that thicker crust from becoming soggy,
Okay, that makes sense.
because you don't want a soggy crust. And the second reason is it allows the cheese to melt more evenly, creating this blanket of gooey deliciousness.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, good.
All right, so we've talked about brick oven, we've talked about pan.
Yeah.
Let's
Where do we go next?
let's turn up the heat a little bit and talk about fire pizzas.
All right.
So when you think of fire pizzas, what comes to mind for you?
When I think of fire pizzas, I think of open flame cooking. Whether it's a wood-fired oven or a grill,
Yeah.
there's just something so rustic and charming about cooking with fire.
Yeah.
You get those beautiful char marks on the crust, that unmistakable smoky flavor, and the toppings just get kissed by the flames, intensifying their natural sweetness.
I also feel like fire pizzas are some of the most versatile in terms of toppings. Like you can go super traditional,
Yeah.
or you can get really gourmet with it.
Absolutely.
Like I've seen fire pizzas with figs and prosciutto and arugula.
Oh, yeah. Those are delicious.
It's amazing.
You can really get creative with fire pizzas.
Yeah, why is it that fire pizzas lend themselves so well to different kinds of toppings?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fast cooking time. You know,
Right.
you're cooking these pizzas at such high heat that the toppings don't have a chance to get overcooked.
Yeah.
So you can use a wider range of ingredients. Delicate toppings like fresh herbs or cheeses can be added towards the end to avoid burning, while heartier toppings like roasted vegetables or cured meats benefit from that initial high heat.
So you can really like time it out perfectly to
Yeah,
get
real-
that, like you said, that
Add a
symphony
has
of
flavors.
the perfect symphony of flavors on a pizza.
All right, so we've got these 3 distinct pizza styles.
Yeah.
We've got brick oven with its crispy thin crust
Mm-hmm.
and fresh flavors. We've got pan pizza with its thick, cheesy, satisfying heartiness.
Yes.
And we've got fire pizzas
Mhm.
with their smoky intensity and rustic charm.
Yeah.
But you know, when you really break it down,
Wow.
I think what really differentiates these pizzas
I agree.
is the crust.
The foundation of it all.
It is the foundation.
And we talked about like thickness and crispy versus soft.
Right.
But I feel like there's more to it than that.
Oh, there's so much more to it.
So what is it about these different crusts that
Well,
makes them so unique?
it all starts with the ingredients. The flour, the water, the yeast, the salt, the building blocks of any good pizza crust.
Okay.
But the type of flour you use plays a huge role in the final texture.
You know what I've always wondered about that?
What's that?
Some recipes call for bread flour
Yes.
and some call for all-purpose flour.
Right.
What's the difference?
It comes down to the protein content. Higher protein flours like bread flour have more gluten.
Oh.
Gluten is what gives the dough its elasticity and chewiness.
Oh, okay.
So for that classic Neapolitan pizza with its thin, slightly chewy crust, you'd typically use a higher protein flour.
Okay.
Lower protein flours, on the other hand, create a more tender, delicate crust, often preferred for thinner, crispier styles.
So if I wanted to make a pizza with a really thin cracker-like crust, I should use a lower protein flour.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay.
You're a natural.
All right. Well, let's talk about yeast.
Okay.
I know there are different types of yeast that you can use for pizza dough.
There are.
You've got active dry yeast, instant yeast, even sourdough starter.
Yep. All of those will work.
How do those different yeasts affect the crust?
Well, each type of yeast will affect both the flavor and the texture of the crust.
Okay.
Active dry yeast and instant yeast are pretty straightforward. They give you that classic yeasty flavor.
Okay.
Sourdough starter, on the other hand,
Yeah, that's the one I'm curious about.
that one's a bit more complex.
I've always heard it's more difficult to work with.
It can be. It definitely requires more patience and attention.
Yeah.
But the result is a complex, tangy flavor that many pizza enthusiasts find irresistible.
Okay.
Sourdough fermentation creates lactic acid, which contributes to that characteristic sourness, and also helps to break down the gluten, resulting in a more easily digestible crust.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's a bit more work.
But for some people, it's well worth it for that unique flavor.
So we've got our flour, we've got our yeast, we've got our water.
Right.
What about kneading the dough?
Oh, kneading the dough is where the magic really happens.
Okay.
This is where you develop the gluten strands, giving the dough its structure and elasticity.
Okay.
Under-kneading can result in a dense, tough crust, while over-kneading can make it tough and rubbery. So finding that sweet spot is key to a perfect crust.
Okay.
It's a delicate dance.
And then after we knead it,
After you knead it, you let it rise.
we let it rise.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Rising allows the yeast to do its work.
Okay.
As the yeast consumes the sugars in the flour, it produces carbon dioxide, creating those beautiful air bubbles that give the dough its rise and airy texture.
Okay.
The rising time and temperature also play a huge role in developing flavor.
So the longer you let it rise, the more flavorful it's going to be.
To a certain extent, yes.
A longer, slower rise at a cooler temperature allows for more complex flavor development. But it's a delicate dance
All right.
because overproofing, letting the dough rise for too long, can result in a dough that's difficult to handle.
Okay.
It may collapse during baking.
So you don't want to go too far.
You don't want to go too far. You got to find that sweet spot.
All right, so we've kneaded,
We've kneaded,
we've risen.
risen.
Now it's time to shape the crust.
Time to shape it.
I've seen people tossing dough in the air.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen them using rolling pins.
Yeah.
I've seen them stretching it out with their hands.
Yep.
What's the best method?
Well, there's no one best method. It really depends on the type of crust you're making and your personal preference.
Okay.
For a thin Neapolitan-style crust,
Okay.
hand stretching is often preferred.
Okay.
It allows you to gently stretch the dough from the center outward, creating a slightly raised edge for the crust.
Okay. What about for thicker crusts?
For thicker crusts, you can still hand stretch. But a rolling pin can be helpful for achieving a more uniform thickness, especially if you're new to pizza making.
Yeah.
The key is to avoid overworking the dough, as this can develop too much gluten and result in a tough crust.
Okay.
So gentle hands.
Gentle hands.
Just as the key.
All right. So we've risen, we've shaped.
Almost there.
Now it's baking time.
It's baking time.
And this is where those 3 pizza styles we talked about, brick oven, pan, and fire, really come into play.
They do.
So the brick oven gives us that like intense heat.
Yeah.
Creates that char, the crispiness.
That's right.
The pan gives us a nice even browning, a softer crust.
Yeah.
And the fire gives us that smoky flavor and that kind of rustic charm.
Exactly. Each heat source contributes to the pizza's unique personality.
It's amazing how much of a difference the baking method makes.
It really is. It's the final touch.
And of course, we can't forget about the toppings.
Oh, the toppings, the best part.
But we'll save that for next time.
We'll save that for next time. Stay tuned.
All right, pizza lovers, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
Okay, so we've covered the crust.
We have.
Now we've got to talk about the toppings.
All right, let's get into it. This is where it gets fun.
It does get fun.
Yeah.
It's like this is where we get to express ourselves.
It's true. It's like pizza is a blank canvas for culinary expression.
And there are so many different topping combinations out there.
So many. And it's so interesting how they can be both intensely personal and culturally influenced.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like what's considered a classic in one region could be totally unheard of in another.
Exactly. Like you go to some places and they put corn on pizza.
Yeah.
You never see that here.
Yeah, or like seafood.
Seafood pizza? That's a big thing in some parts of the world.
Right. And then you've got, your diehard pepperoni fans.
Of course, you got to have the pepperoni people.
The veggie lovers.
The veggie lovers always.
And then those adventurous eaters who are always hunting for the most unique combinations.
Yeah, the ones who are always trying to push the boundaries of...
Yeah, pushing the boundaries of pizza.
Eyesight.
I like that. And of course, we can't forget about the eternal debate.
Here we go.
Pineapple on pizza.
The great pineapple debate.
It's amazing how such a seemingly simple topic
I know, right?
can spark such passionate discussions.
It can divide families.
I think it's all part of what makes pizza so special, though.
I think so, too.
It's like this food that evokes such strong emotions.
It's true. Everyone has an opinion about pizza.
Yeah, it's like a blank canvas.
It is.
For culinary expression, whether you're a purist or a trendsetter, there's a pizza topping combo out there.
Absolutely.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Speaking of trends, have you noticed the rise of gourmet pizza toppings in recent years?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like pizza has gone from a casual hangout food to a fine dining experience.
I've seen pizzas topped with fig and prosciutto burrata and pesto truffle oil and wild mushrooms.
It's amazing.
Like, it's crazy.
It really shows the versatility of pizza as a culinary platform.
Yeah, you can really take it to the next level.
You can. You can keep it simple and classic, or you can elevate it to a gourmet experience.
Yeah, I've always wondered about this. Is there like a strategy to topping a pizza?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, are you a less is more person?
I'm definitely a believer in balance.
Balance, okay.
You want enough toppings to create a symphony of flavors, but not so many that they overpower the crust or each other.
That makes sense.
It's like you don't want to create a flavor traffic jam on your pizza.
Okay, no flavor traffic jams.
Each ingredient should complement the others.
So what are some classic topping pairings that always work well together?
Well, you can't go wrong with the classics tomato sauce and mozzarella.
It's a dynamic duo.
They are the dynamic duo of pizza toppings.
It's funny. I think I read somewhere that, like, the reason why tomato sauce and mozzarella work so well together is because, like, tomato sauce is acidic.
Yes, it is.
And the mozzarella is like a base.
Right. It kind of neutralizes the acidity.
So it balances it out.
Exactly. They just complement each other perfectly.
It's like a match made in pizza heaven.
It's a match made in pizza heaven.
But then from there, you can add layers of flavor.
Yeah.
You can add salty meats. You can add tangy cheeses, sweet and savory vegetables.
The possibilities are endless.
Endless.
Yeah.
But here's a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Do you think the style of pizza should influence your choice of toppings?
Ooh, Interesting question.
Like, for example, would you put pineapple on a Neapolitan pizza?
That's a tough one. Some people would say that's pizza sacrilege.
Right.
But I'm not one to judge. I think it's all about personal preference.
Okay.
But I do think that each pizza style has its own character, and the toppings should complement that character, not clash with it.
Yeah, so if you've got like a really thin, crispy crust,
Right.
you don't want to like overload it.
You don't want to weigh it down with toppings.
Exactly, because then you're just going to end up with a soggy mess.
So when you're building a pizza, how do you decide which toppings will work best with which style?
Well, there's no strict formula,
Okay.
but there are definitely some guidelines you can follow.
Okay.
For example, a Neapolitan pizza with its thin, delicate crust is best suited for lighter toppings.
So like fresh mozzarella, some basil,
equivalent.
maybe some cherry tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes, perfect.
Keep it simple. Let the flavors of the crust and the sauce shine through.
Exactly. You want to showcase the quality of those simple ingredients.
Okay, now for a pan pizza with its thicker, sturdier crust,
Yes.
you can be a bit more adventurous with your toppings, right?
Absolutely. You want toppings that can stand up to that thicker crust.
Okay.
And won't get lost in all that cheesy goodness.
So like pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms, all that good stuff.
All the good stuff.
Think of it like building a delicious skyscraper of flavors.
I love the skyscraper of flavors.
That's what a pan pizza is.
And then for fire pizzas,
Yeah, fire pizza.
you've got that added element of smokiness.
That's right.
So you want toppings that can either complement or contrast that flavor.
Exactly. You need toppings that can hold their own against that intense smoky flavor.
Okay, so roasted vegetables,
Roasted vegetables are great.
like peppers, onions, zucchini,
Yes, they char slightly in the fire, adding another layer of complexity.
and then maybe like a Boulder cheese.
Yeah, a Boulder cheese like gorgonzola or smoked mozzarella
Okay.
can also stand up to the smoke.
And you can even do like prosciutto or salami.
Absolutely, they get slightly crispy from the heat.
So it's all about matching the intensity of the toppings with the intensity of the cooking method.
Exactly.
Lighter toppings for delicate crusts, heartier toppings for sturdier crusts, and bold toppings
Yes.
for those fire-kissed creations.
I love that fire-kissed creation.
It's all coming together.
It is. It's all making sense.
It is making sense. I'm learning so much.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
there's one more thing I've always wondered about.
What's that?
The order of the toppings. Does it really matter?
That's a detail that often gets overlooked.
Okay.
But the order in which you layer your toppings can actually impact the final result.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there like a strategic way
There are definitely some best practices.
to layer your toppings?
Yes.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Generally, you want to put any ingredients that need longer to cook, like raw vegetables or meats, directly on the crust.
Okay, so they have more direct contact with the heat.
Exactly. So they cook through properly.
Okay.
And then you can layer your cheese on top of that, followed by any more delicate ingredients like fresh herbs or thinly sliced vegetables.
Oh, so the cheese is like a protective barrier.
It prevents those delicate toppings from burning.
It's like a little cheese shield.
Exactly, a cheese shield.
Okay, so it's all about creating layers of flavor and texture while ensuring that everything cooks evenly.
That's the goal.
Wow. It's amazing how much thought and strategy goes into creating the perfect pizza.
It is, but that's what makes pizza so fascinating and rewarding.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept, but there's so much depth to explore.
All right, well, I think I'm officially ready to ditch the delivery menu and start experimenting in my own kitchen.
That's the spirit.
But before we go,
Yeah.
there's one last burning question I have.
All right, hit me with it.
Okay, so we talked about how like the style of pizza should kind of influence like what toppings we choose.
Right.
But what about the sauce?
The sauce.
I mean, like it's the foundation of flavor, right?
It is. It's the base upon which we build our pizza masterpiece.
So does the sauce, like, do we have to change that based on
Yeah.
the style and the toppings?
I mean, a classic tomato sauce is incredibly versatile.
Sure.
It works with most pizza styles, but you can definitely get creative with your sauce game
Okay.
to complement specific toppings and crusts.
So we're not just limited to like the classic red sauce.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, so like what else is out there?
Well, for a white pizza, you could use a creamy garlic sauce, a ricotta base, or even a pesto sauce.
Okay.
If you're going for a more Mediterranean vibe, try a hummus base topped with roasted vegetables and feta cheese.
Oh, that's good.
And for something a bit more adventurous, you could even experiment with sauces inspired by different cuisines,
Like what?
like a Thai peanut sauce or an Indian tikka masala sauce.
Wow, I've never thought about that.
Yeah, It's all about thinking outside the pizza box.
Okay, but how do you know which sauce is going to work best with which toppings?
Well, it's all about considering the flavor profiles and how they'll interact with each other.
Okay.
For example, if you're using a lot of bold, savory toppings like sausage or mushrooms,
Okay.
a simple tomato sauce can provide a nice balance.
Okay.
But if you're going for a lighter, fresher pizza, a pesto sauce or a white garlic sauce might be a better choice.
So it's like creating a flavor symphony.
Exactly.
Each ingredient has to play its part
That's right.
in the overall.
And just like with any good symphony, there needs to be a conductor.
Okay.
In this case, the sauce acts as the conductor, bringing all the different flavors together.
I like that.
Yeah.
This has been so eye-opening.
Good.
I never knew there was so much to know about pizza.
Oh, there's always more to learn.
But, not everyone's a pizza expert like you. So for those people who are maybe feeling a little intimidated by the idea of making pizza from scratch, what advice would you give them?
I would say start simple and don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
There are tons of resources available online and in cookbooks to guide you through the process. And the beauty of pizza is that it's very forgiving. Even if your first attempt isn't perfect,
Yeah.
it's still going to be delicious.
You can't really mess up pizza too bad.
Exactly. It's hard to mess up pizza.
So just embrace the process, have fun, and enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, dear listeners, we've explored the world of pizza, from crust to toppings, from brick ovens to open flames. We've delved into the science and art of pizza making and discovered the endless possibilities for creativity and flavor.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been a journey.
Yeah.
We hope this deep dive has inspired you to embark on your own pizza adventures.
Remember, the most important ingredient in any pizza is passion. So go forth, experiment, and create your own pizza masterpieces.
Until next time on The Deep Dive, happy pizzaing.